Alright, have you guys seen The Amazing Spider-Man by now? If not, you probably should before you watch this. Heavy spoiler video here for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So let's get into it because you guys have been asking for a spoiler video when I put my video up. Alright, first of all, first thing to note, I am a huge Spider-Man fan. He's so awesome and relatable and smart and Spider-Man-ish. He's shit talker, he swings around on webs. There's just nothing not to like about him. And granted, maybe that's why I found some of the things in this movie irritating. I try to separate my fanboy-isms when I watch a movie. I just want to separate that and be like, okay, how is it as a movie? Because in the end, it comes down to execution and what did they use and what did they waste. That just has to do with the movie itself. First of all, it's really funny. The first guy that he takes down is the Rhino before he's the Rhino. Paul Giamatti, who's this big Russian cartoon, he's going around, he's shooting his machine gun, he takes him down. And I was like, all right, I thought he was going to fight the Rhino at the very beginning, but it's just Paul Giamatti. It's him before he's the Rhino, which, where's the Rhino? So I thought maybe he'll come into play later, and he does about 2 hours and 15 minutes later. But we saw Jamie Foxx in the trailer. He's a big Spider-Man stalker. Hell, we saw most of the movies in all the trailers. But I like that Times Square scene when he's sapping the power, and the trailer makes it look like he just dicks out and starts shooting Spider-Man, but at first he's so scared out of his mind. He has these new powers, he's electric, he's stepping in the rain, it's arcing, cops are getting a little trigger finger, they're like, ugh. But I love the scene when he comes on the screen because like everyone has their cameras on him, so he's in all the TVs in Times Square and he's looking around and he was like, oh, that's cool. Even though it's not good for him, he's clearly a problem, but he thought it was great. He's somebody now. He's on the big screen. Then the cameras go towards Spider-Man, he gets irritated and pissed. Oh, the ego. Then that's when he starts freaking out. It's a big fight. I just like that whole conflict. It shows what Electro's like, how he thinks, how he acts. It actually gave some character to Electro, which is miles ahead of what they did with Dr. Connors in the last movie. And it feeds into the fact that Spider-Man is so smart. I know some of you, a lot of you, a number of you, point is there are people who are like, no, Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. And Tobey Maguire's fine, but he's so average. The thing is, in those Raimi movies, I cannot tell you that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has an above average IQ. Spider-Man's supposed to be an average dude, but he is supposed to be so smart. Peter Parker's so smart. I feel the Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man shows that a lot more. Electro shorts out his web shooters and I was like, how is he gonna take him on now? So there's a scene where he's trying to ground the web shooter so electricity doesn't fry him. But that was awesome. I was like, yeah, it's a Spider-Man in his brain. I really like the Electro song. Every time it came on, I was like, that song is awesome. I love it when a villain has a theme. That song, the one that's in the trailer, it's all like, it's an awesome song. It's just creepy. And I was listening to it the entire ride home on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for having music. Although, speaking of paranoia, when Electro's in Times Square, you can hear voices in his head. And I was like, okay, how many villains in Spider-Man are going to have voices in their head? Green Goblin talked to himself. Dr. Octopus, the arms would talk to him. The Lizard had voices in his head. Electro apparently has voices in his head in one scene. Spider-Man just needs to give these folks a pill and they'll be fine. I like the Easter eggs in the movie too. When Max calls that one dude Mr. Smythe, I was like, whoa, Alistair Smythe, holy shit. BJ Novak plays Alistair Smythe. There's this one chick, she plays Black Cat. Well, not really Black Cat, she plays Felicia. Felicia actually becomes Black Cat. These little things that they have in the movie showing that it is Spider-Man's universe, but these people aren't anything yet. They're just kind of there. And they should be there because they become relevant in Spider-Man. Even if they don't in any of the movies, I like to know that Felicia and Alistair Smythe, they're in the universe, and that's cool to me. Which means my boy Ben Reilly's out there somewhere. So while Electro's hanging out and he's like getting dunked in a tank and fried, Peter Parker starts reconnecting with his friend Harry Osborn, or at least his childhood friend. At first I was like, oh, okay, so they were friends. It's not like they first met in this movie. It's fine if they're building up to like the third movie where he becomes the Goblin, but let's say they're gonna shoehorn the Goblin into this movie, I'm not really gonna be as connected with the situation because you don't see their friendship grow. Just like, oh, hey, how's it going, pal? All right, let's skip some rocks, or now I hate your guts. And that's pretty much what they do. And that one scene of dialogue where he's like, Oscorp had you under surveillance. Why? Isn't that the question of the day? Yeah, that scene is just gone. Not in the movie anymore. That's just this toast. Which makes me think back to The Amazing Spider-Man 1 where they took a lot of stuff out of there and I'm like, does Mark Webb just make movies that get sliced up? Granted, things end up on the cutting room floor in movies. That's just the way it goes. But you feel like when they make the trailers, they have an idea of what they're gonna keep in the movie and what they're gonna toast. My favorite Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker scenes, the scene where they're talking, he's like, all right, stop doing that thing with your nose because it's way too cute. It's killing me. And you're watching it, you're like, you guys are a cute couple. It's on again, off again bullshit. I've seen that 100 times in movies before, but you guys are cute, so why not just date? She'll be around for a long time anyway, right? All right? And the Green Goblin's in this movie too, kind of. Well, it's Harry Osborn. It's not Norman Osborn. I've heard some of the comic books did that. They just went right to Harry and skipped Norman, which could be cool. I feel like that would be better if Norman was around for it. Nah, Norman Osborn dies after 3 minutes of screen time. If Norman's around for his kid to be the Goblin, I don't know, maybe he can be like, well, finally, you're doing something with your life, or you're being a dick, or you're not my son anymore, or hey, let's do it together. I don't know. Something other than just killing him off, but yeah, he dies after a couple minutes. And people have said like, no, he's actually the Goblin. His skin's green, he has the long nails, he is the Green Goblin technically. I would argue that. I would say no, he's actually not. He's just an old guy with green skin and long nails. He would be the Green Goblin if he did the Green Goblin things. See, to me, a character is more than just how he looks, it's his general persona and his actions. It's not who we are on the inside, it's what we do that defines us. I don't know, someone said that. However, Harry becomes a goblin. I was like, all right, he's gonna throw down with the Green Goblin. He's there for a couple of minutes and then he gets taken down. After the big throwdown with Electro, the Green Goblin comes in to cause some problems. He's there clearly to kill Gwen Stacy. Yeah, she dies. And you feel like when they were writing the movie, they were like, well, Gwen Stacy should die in this one because we don't want her around for the Sinister Six thing, so let's just kill her now. But in order to kill her, we gotta make the Goblin do it because the Goblin kills her in the comics, so we're just gonna have him in here just to kill her. Which, not even from a comic book standpoint is that wasting a comic book character, but any character whatsoever in most any movie that just becomes a villain out of the blue near the end and then is in the movie at the end as the villain just to do one thing before he gets taken out, it feels out of place. It doesn't really flow with the movie. Granted, he'll be in the next movie, I'm sure, but for his big introduction, don't have him in here for a couple minutes. And that's when I backed up and I was like, this feels a lot like Venom in Spider-Man 3. Think about it. In Spider-Man 3, there were whispers that Venom might be in it. Then in one trailer, you thought you saw him once or twice. You're like, oh, I think that was Venom. Then in the last trailer, you saw him fighting with Spider-Man a couple times and they were like, oh, Venom's in the movie and he fights with Spider-Man. Then you watch the movie and you're like, and he's in the last part of the movie for one fight and then he gets taken down. And it felt out of place. You're like, what a waste of Venom. The exact same feeling is what I got with the Green Goblin in this movie. From the marketing to execution, the two are very similar situations. I walked out of the movie theater going, I thought we were supposed to learn from Spider-Man 3, not repeat some of the mistakes. Granted, this movie's a lot better than Spider-Man 3. I'm not saying it is Spider-Man 3, but there are some things you need to address and go, that just wasn't handled well. But yeah, Gwen Stacy falls is my favorite scene in the movie. Spider-Man shoots the web and you know it's coming. You're like, oh gosh, this is gonna suck ass. The web's coming for her, and you know in the comic book, Spider-Man webs her foot and it breaks her neck. The momentum just snaps her neck. This one, when she was falling, the web got her, but it was a millisecond too late and it snaps her neck back, and with the full force of the momentum, she smacks her head on the concrete. You're like, oh, I think she's dead. It made me feel ill. I was like, whoa. Spider-Man goes down there and he's like, Gwen, I'm pretty sure she smacked her head on the pavement. It might just be the whiplash snapped her neck, but I'm pretty sure she landed above the ground, but the whiplash smacked her head on the ground and she's just dead now. The only thing I call bullshit on that is the fact that her head didn't look like a crushed meatball. But Spider-Man gets down there and Peter Parker is just crying and she's bleeding out of her nose and you're like, that's rough. Not gonna lie, that scene actually got to me. It was emotional. It choked me up a bit. And that's when I was like, all right, the movie as a whole, I'll forgive the Goblin thing and this is a positive movie. But then you montage through the course of, I think it was about a year, there are a few seasons where Peter Parker's just sitting there at her grave and you see like summer, fall, winter, spring shit. He's sulking for a while. Spider-Man's been gone. I wish they'd ended the movie there where it's like Spider-Man is gone and in the next movie the Sinister Six happens and now Spider-Man's back because that's what brings him out of retirement. But no, now the Rhino's in his costume talking in his big Russian cartoon voice, and Spider-Man, I swear to you, the last scene is in the trailer. Whenever they show the last shot of the movie, I'm always like, why'd you show the last shot of the... You don't know it's the last shot of the movie when you're watching the trailer. A couple times in trailers, you can assess it though and be like, it's probably the last shot. They do finally identify the really mysterious guy who's gathering the Sinister Six. He's Mr. Fears. He's the gentleman. And I was like, I know that name. And that's because I read the book Gathering of the Sinister Six. And that's what he's from. He's a dude who works with the chameleon to gather the Sinister Six. Although he was kind of like evil Alfred the butler in that one. This one, he's kind of a creepy guy who looks like Van Damme. Point is, that's who he is. So now we know. In the end, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I felt could have been better if they had Paul Giamatti in the beginning and then he fights Electro and a lot of the back and forth love story things were cut out and he was just like, yeah, I'm dating you and now you're dead. And you're dead from a means other than the Green Goblin being shoehorned in the end of this movie. And then they end with him being all depressed in the next movie they pick up where he becomes Spider-Man again. Green Goblin to me is like the main Spider-Man nemesis. I know people can argue it's Venom because he's his opposite. For me, for Spider-Man and Peter Parker's life, it's the Green Goblin. He's done the most damage to him, I feel. He is the guy, so shoehorning him into the end of the movie just isn't fulfilling to me. It's kind of like imagine The Dark Knight where Two-Face was the main villain and in the very end, the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, they shoehorn the Joker into there. You'd be left with that feeling of, so the main villain of that guy's entire life was just kind of in the last part of the movie. Yeah, that's just not as good. And you can argue it's set up for the next movie, but that's what this movie feels like. It's just a lot of setup for the next movie. So what is your favorite Spider-Man villain of all time? Whoever it is, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.